Guys, we're back with the video. We're gonna react to SpongeBob Mrs. Puff's theory. So let's see what it's about.
This is not Mrs. Puff. You may think
Hold on. Alright, we're back.
she's just SpongeBob's boating teacher, but you'd be very, very wrong. For years, she's been running from her dark and mysterious past, but it's finally caught up to her. And behind it all is a mastermind who's been secretly controlling her life and psychologically torturing her. If you guys thought my last two theories were mind-blowing, get ready for my biggest conspiracy yet.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Mrs. Puff
I
theory.
already forgot.
I gotta start off by saying, wow,
Last time
the
I watched
reaction to
SpongeBob
my
was
last two
like 2
SpongeBob
weeks ago.
theories has been insane.
How does she know? How does she know?
Squilliam, you lying, deceiving, who is that handsome young devil?
I'm glad you guys are enjoying my ridiculously deep dives into the show. I mean, I have to watch so much SpongeBob and read so much of the
Last time I
Wikipedia to
watched
put these
SpongeBob
theories
was
together,
about
but it's worth it
2
because
weeks
the
ago,
writers
I
actually
think.
take the time to set these things up. Now, a lot of people have been asking, Alex, how do you come up with these crazy conspiracy theories? Well, I always start these theories by looking for the moments in the show that seem to be implying more than they're letting on. Like I've said before, SpongeBob is a weird show with lots of abstract humor, but I can usually understand the intent the writers had behind a weird joke. But then there's stuff like this.
I hope I still remember how to do this.
Blowing a balloon. I remember
Yeah.
this one.
And it's so confusing and weird that it feels like the writers are trying to imply something beyond just weirdness for the sake of comedy. And nowhere in the show is there more of these moments than with Mrs. Puff. And once I started looking into it, it led me down the deepest rabbit hole I've ever seen from this show.
The Mrs.
So,
Puff theory.
let's begin.
Warning, you
Uh-oh,
are
looks
being
like
hacked.
I'm getting hacked by a hacker. I knew this would happen if I got too close to the truth. Well, it's a good thing this video is sponsored by NordVPN. If you're
Okay.
they're probably knowing all of your community
Oh,
watching certain series without the fear of being hacked. Thanks, NordVPN.
Thank
Now,
you,
without further
sir.
ado, let's begin the theory.
the Mrs. Puff Spark. Okay. Checking
Mrs.
this out.
Puff is a boating school teacher in Bikini Bottom. She's passed all of her students except for one, SpongeBob
SpongeBob?
SquarePants. He's taken her driver's test hundreds of times, and he always ends up failing it and causing destruction and chaos that usually ends up with
Oh,
Mrs.
God.
Puff going to jail, despite it not really being her fault. We also know that she was once married, but her husband was killed by fishermen.
That's my driving teacher,
What's-
Mrs. Puff.
Mrs. Puff?
Mr. Puff. Yeah.
Oh, she's married.
Oh no, Mr. Krabs, she's single.
Then what happened to Mr. Puff?
Oh God. Oh, he's dead.
She doesn't like to talk about it.
Throughout the show, there are moments like this that seem to be hinting at her having a dark, mysterious
SpongeBob
past. And in Season 2,
movie.
Episode 10, No Free Rides, we
Free
get the
Rides.
biggest clue about who Mrs. Puff really is. After SpongeBob fails the driving test yet again, Mrs.
Yep.
Puff has just had it with him and ends up just giving up
Oh,
and
yeah.
giving him his license, even though he never really passed. She
SpongeBob
quickly
will
realizes
never
that this
pass.
is a horrible idea and he'll probably end up destroying the entire town.
How do you, oh God.
So much destruction. This reporter asks, why? Local consensus places the blame on this negligent, selfish driving instructor who...
Oh.
Remember this clip, because it's going to be very important
Okay.
later on. And then she says this insanely revealing line.
What have I done? Everyone will know that I let him slide through school. I'll have to move to a new city, start a new boating school with a new name.
New name.
No, not again.
Not again.
No, not again. Come on, it's like they're just begging someone to make a theory about this. So we now know Mrs. Puff was originally from a different
Yes.
town, she used to own a different boating school, and Mrs. Puff isn't even her real name. There's something in her past that she ran away from. Now, there's been some debate over whether she's actually referring to a new name for herself or for her boating school, but I do think she's talking about her own
Herself.
name, because if she's
Yeah.
trying to run away from something in her past, she wouldn't start a new boating school with her real name in the title. Now, when she
That's
says
it, that's
again,
it.
I don't think she's just referring to starting a new life.
Everyone will know that I let him slide through school. Not again.
I think at her previous boating school, she had a terrible student just like SpongeBob, who she prematurely gave a
damn.
license to, and it led to something so terrible happening that she had to run away and start a whole new life. In Season 3, Episode 5, Doing Time, we get a flashback to when she first opened up the school.
Where did I go wrong?
Where did I
With
go?
the opening of my new boating school,
Mrs.
I
Puff
pledge
Boating
that
School.
as long as a student is willing to learn, I shall never give up.
Hi, I'm SpongeBob. SpongeBob SquarePants.
With the opening of this new boating school,
New.
let's keep in mind that this is not her first boating school. Maybe the whole reason she's making this pledge now at her second school is because she gave up on a student at her previous school, and that led to her having to run away and start a new life. She's pledging to never make the same mistake again. Now let's skip ahead to one of the newer episodes. Season 12, Episode
Lighthouse
21, Lighthouse Louie, where Mrs. Puff has SpongeBob organize all the stuff she keeps in the school's lighthouse. There's lots of interesting
think I
things
saw
hidden
this
in the
one before, I
background,
don't
but the
remember.
first thing that caught my eye was this file labeled Mrs. Puff. It makes sense for a teacher to have
yeah,
files on all their students, but why would she have a file about herself? But let's remember, she's not Mrs. Puff. That's a fake identity she created. And I'm willing to bet all of her fake identification documents are in this file. Back in No Free Rides, she just gives SpongeBob a license that she already had for him. So she clearly makes these licenses and would probably know how to make fake identifications. But that's not the only hint about Mrs. Puff's past in this lighthouse. There
Pizza, Mr. Krabs. Oh, that modern. Wait, I don't know if you guys can see that in the bottom right, but I don't think that's important.
There's something in here that directly confirms all of this. As SpongeBob swallows all of Mrs. Puff's junk, we see something very interesting for only a few frames. Deranged boat teacher makes
Oh, that has to be Mrs. Someone. Obviously, it's Mrs. Puff, but the range boat teacher makes getaway, distracts authorities with balloon. Oh!
getaway. 10 seasons later, and the creators are still hiding stuff about Mrs. Puff fleeing her old life. It might not look like it at first, but we actually get a ton of new information from this newspaper. This is from the New Kelp Post, which tells us Mrs. Puff originally lived in New Kelp City. Then there's a caption that reads, "Distracts authorities with balloon animals." And do you remember that clip from the beginning?
I hope I still remember how to do this.
Well,
Yeah.
So whenever Mrs. Puff makes a getaway or commits a crime, she leaves behind a balloon animal to distract the police. I'm telling you guys, these writers don't just do stuff randomly, they have reasons for everything. And the most damning piece of evidence from this newspaper is actually the picture of Mrs. Puff. Kind of a strange photo, right?
Yes.
We have seen this exact same photo of her before. In the episode No Free Rides, when she imagines what would happen if SpongeBob got his license.
Local consensus places the blame on this negligent, selfish driving instructor.
This means that this isn't just her imagination of what might happen. This is also her remembering what happened when she lived in New Kelp City and prematurely gave one of her students a license. And I'm willing to bet that the fish reporting the news is the exact same one who reported about her in New Kelp City. Let me explain. We know from the episode Whatever Happened to SpongeBob that reporters from the Bikini Bottom News can also work for the New Kelp City News. But the real reason I think this is because of his hair. In the entire show, we have never seen this fish reporter with hair before. Why would the creators go out of their way to add that detail? Because Mrs. Puff isn't imagining him as he looks now. She's remembering him from years ago when he used to have hair, when he reported about her in New Kelp City. Mrs. Puff has been running from her past ever since, and is now forced to relive her experience with an unteachable student through SpongeBob. But reliving this trauma has pushed her to the point of complete insanity. And trust me when I say that you have no idea how delusional she actually is.